Shields up, Iron Breakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and welcome back to Monster Hunter. I'll tell you what, the last thing I expected to see when I booted up my live stream earlier this afternoon was a new Monster Hunter trailer. Now, I knew that there was going to be a Nintendo Direct, I knew that it was not going to be first-party titles, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to live stream it or not, but Kegrin was with me on Discord, and he was like, hey, are you going to live stream this thing? And I was like, sure, I guess I could. This was like 3 minutes before the event started. So I booted my live stream, and what do I see? I see this image of a dog running through a field. I was like, this game looks like some kind of Japanese type game. Then the camera starts zooming in and going through this foresty looking area with a couple of wooden structures, and then goes up a mountain. And there's a character there. Character looks very anime-ish. And eventually the dog kind of joins the character, and the character turns around, and I was like, wait a minute. I started recognizing elements of this character's armor. I'm like, that looks like some Nargacuga. And then this character mounts the dog, and I was like, wait. And suddenly you hear, wah, and in comes the Palico, and I was like, holy crap, this is Monster Hunter, dude, what? It just blew my mind. I was completely not expecting it at all, and it was just like a fantastic surprise, and it was basically just repeated moments of me going like, what the hell is going on? What's this thing? What's that thing? Initially, because of the first footage that they shown, I even thought it was going to be like a Monster Hunter action adventure game because they show a lot of traversal. But I guess that was just to showcase like one of the main themes of this game, which is verticality. So this title, naturally being presented at a Nintendo Direct, is going to be a Switch game, at least Switch first. I don't know if it's going to be exclusive, but I suspect that this is going to be a Switch-only game. We've been talking about this for quite some time. I mentioned it on a lot of my videos that most likely the next Monster Hunter game was going to be a Switch game. It made sense. There were a lot of hints that had been placed before. I talked about this in multiple videos, and there were always several people going like, no, dude, with the success that Monster Hunter had, it's gonna be in home consoles forever. Forget about it. The age of the handhelds is gone. And lo and behold, I guess you guys were wrong. And I know. In a way, it's a little bit bittersweet because I also don't like the fact that there's going to be, if it does end up as a Switch exclusive, which right now we don't know all of the information yet. There's going to be more information in TGS. But if it does end up as it being only a Switch game, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be excluded. And I know it sucks. But you guys also need to understand that with the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC version only, there are also a lot of other people that were excluded, particularly in the main region of this game where this game kind of got started, because it is a Japanese game after all. You know, that region was not properly serviced in their Monster Hunter needs because, you know, in Japan, mostly they play handhelds and stuff like that. So this is Capcom's response to that. The name of the title is Monster Hunter Rise, and like I said, I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be frustrated by it, and it's like, look, you can either take it or leave it. Things are the way that they are, and I'm just happy that they're releasing it simultaneously in the West, because back in the day, you know, the old Monster Hunter games, they would release them in Japan, and then like 1 year or 2 years later, you would get them in the West, if you would even get them in the West, because there's actually a Monster Hunter game that never came out in the West, which was Monster Hunter Portable 3rd. So this is the second time that a Monster Hunter game is released worldwide in Japan and in the West. And I'm just happy that it got released in the West, okay? Because for all of the people that feel a little bit jaded over the fact that they're not going to be able to play it on their console, I can guarantee you that there's a lot of people that are happy simply because of the fact that it's releasing at the same time. And I'm one of those people. So I'm excited for this game. You guys know that I'm hyped about anything Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter has become my favorite franchise of all time. And as such, anything that involves Monster Hunter is going to be something that I'm going to be covering. So let's actually talk about mechanics and things that I noticed about in this particular trailer, as well as, you know, stuff that has been talked about in the official website, because I do have the website open as well. And I can tell you guys a couple of things, particularly about some of the new monsters that we saw. So let's get into it. So I kind of divided this into a couple of different topics. The first topic that I had is theme and new mechanics. Now, the theme of Monster Hunter Rise, as the developers themselves have said, is the kind of like the verticality and just giving hunters even more freedom of movement. Now, in Monster Hunter World, it is one of the It is one of the fastest paced monster hunters that we've ever had. The way that hunters are able to move and kind of like just mantle up things and just like use the clutch claw and stuff like that to really be super agile and clutch onto things and just keep on going. And they're trying to take that to the next level and make it even faster. Now, I know that some of the more veteran hunters, some of the older hunters that played the older games might look at this and be like, oh my God, I don't know how I feel about this. But personally, I'm super excited. Like, look, I realize that a lot of you guys prefer the way that Monster Hunter was done in the past. I like Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter World is my favorite game of all times. So if they want to speed it up even more, sure, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with that. And so to that end, they're introducing a new mechanic called the Wire Bug. Now, the Wire Bug is something that can be used for both traversal and combat. And the way that it works is that your hunter is going to carry, according to what the developer said, he's going to carry multiple bugs. I suspect that there's going to be some kind of like maybe a cooldown mechanic or something involved in this, because I don't see us just being able to fly all over the map the entire time. But if we're able to do that, I'm sure that they'll figure out a way to balance that out with the rest of the mechanics of the game. But the way that this wire bug works is that they said your hunter carries multiples of these bugs and then he throws them out, and then they have a special kind of silk that is very strong, and then they pull themselves using the silk towards the bug. I'm just thinking like this has got to be one strong ass bug to be able to withstand the full weight of a hunter basically yeeting himself towards the bug every single time. Throughout the video, we actually see them when they're using it for traversal, we see them using it even more than once in the same jump. So it's not like you jump once and then you get a wire bug and then you fall down. No, you jump and you get to wire bug at least twice, and then you can still grab onto a wall, jump off again, and wire bug again. Like, you actually see this. And it's very impressive the amount of verticality that you can reach with these characters with all of the movement options of the wire bug. Like I said, they literally just like jump, grab the bug, then grab the bug again, grapple onto a wall, jump off the wall, throw the bug again, and then jump again. It's crazy. The amount of mobility we're gonna be able to have in this game is gonna be friggin' mind-blowing, and I'm super hyped for it. But the wire bug is not just used for traversal. You can also use it for combat, and I'm actually a little bit concerned with one specific weapon, and I'm sure that most of you guys will know what weapon I'm talking about, and it is going to be the insect glaive. The reason I'm concerned about this weapon is because one of the defining characteristics of this weapon is its aerial playstyle. Even though in World it was somewhat diminished with the use of the clutch claw and all that jazz, you know, the insect glaive is still kind of like the king of the air, so to speak. Even though the aerial combo was not that great in World, but it was still like, it still had the most mobility when it comes to being airborne. And the wire bug is going to bring a lot of that aerial mobility to a lot of other weapons, but not just aerial mobility. That's the cool thing, because we see in the trailer, like one of the moves that I saw that I thought was really impressive is you see someone using a greatsword, and they use the wire bug to jump forward, but then the monster attacks them, and what do? They jump backward, and then they don't use, I don't think they use the wire bug to jump backward, but basically they jump backward, they do like a somersault, and then before the jump ends, they charge and gain momentum forward again, which is very much not realistic in any way, shape, or fashion, but does show something that really increases the skill cap of what you can do using this wire bug and using a lot of air mobility to actually evade attacks and then counterattack. And I thought that was really cool. The way that they handled that particular fight with the greatsword, I thought was very impressive. Just like jumping forward, jumping back, and then charge and gain momentum forward to do the charge attack. And it's like a lot of the moves that you see in there, they feel like World moves. So if you're wondering how much this is going to be like, is it going to be more towards the older games or is it going to be more towards World? This appears to be much more towards World than the older games. Like, it does appear to be like a bit of a middle ground, but more leaning towards Monster Hunter World with the added mobility and just the movesets of the weapons and all that jazz looked really cool. Now, in terms of verticality, not only you can use the wire bug to jump all over the place, you can also run on walls. You just straight up see hunters running vertically up walls in the trailer, which is friggin' cool as hell. There seems to be this move to making the game faster paced, as fast paced as it can get, which I find like it's crazy, because like Monster Hunter World was already so much faster paced than the previous Monster Hunters, and they're upping the ante even more with this one. Now, besides all of this verticality and rising up and whatever and exploring these new lands that they're going to be giving us, one of those lands I'll be talking about as well, they're also adding a new pet. Like I said, at the start of this game, you actually see a dog. The dog is essentially one of your new companions. Now, if you remember in previous Monster Hunters, including Monster Hunter World, you have one companion in the form of a Palico. Monster Hunter Tri was the one where you had the best companions, which was Cha-Cha and Kayamba, but Capcom seems to be forgetting them. Cha-Cha and Kayamba, they exist, Capcom. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. You right there. You, the guy who brought the dog in. What about Cha-Cha and Kayamba? Do they not deserve a seat at the table? Anyway, that's just a little bit of a personal rant. But so the dog is going to be one of the possible companions that you can have. The name of the dogs is Palamute. I don't know if that's like a way to say Palico, but Palamut. Like a mutt, Palamute. I don't know where that comes from, but basically you're going to be able to use them in battle against monsters, and you're going to be able to ride them. So if you bring a Palamute with you to a quest, you're going to be able to ride it very much like a Tail Raider in Monster Hunter World right now. The difference is you can actually control them. You can control the direction that you go in. They're not on preset paths. You don't, set a point in your map and tell them go here. You can actually control them. You can control the direction that they go in. And basically they give you infinite stamina. So you can run for as long as you want. You can also use items while you're on top of these creatures. So that's pretty cool. So they kind of work like a more controllable Tail Raider for Monster Hunter World. And that's friggin' sweet. Now, the way that these companions are going to work is if you're in a multiplayer hunt, you can bring one companion with you. And from the footage that we saw, it looks like you can bring a companion with you even if there's 4 players in the hunt. So you can have the 4 players plus the 4 companions, which is interesting because in previous Monster Hunter games, you had like, if there's 2 of you, you can each come with like your Palico. If there's 3 of you, there's no companions there. And if there's 4 of you, there's also no companions there. It looks like in this game, even if there's 4 of you, each of you get to bring 1 companion with you. If you're solo, you get to bring 2 companions with you. And it's not just the Palamutes either. The Palicos are also going to be here. Obviously, the Palicos have been with Monster Hunter pretty much since forever, with the exception of Monster Hunter Tri, where we also had Palicos there, but you had more felines, and you also had Cha-Cha and Kayamba, not necessarily the traditional Palicos. But anyway, you're gonna be able to choose between bringing a Palamute and a Palico, 2 Palicos, 2 Palamutes, and the only information that they really give us in the trailer is that the Palicos are going to perform more of a support role. The example shown is they have like some kind of bubble thing that creates healing bubbles. And the Palicos are going to be more in that support type role, whereas the Palamutes are going to be attack type companions. So they're going to be attacking the monsters alongside you instead of providing support through buffs and stuff like that. We also see at one point a Palamute that kind of opens up an umbrella like a shield. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to have a Palamute that works kind of like a tank that can get aggro from the monster from time to time and stuff like that. But I would expect that to be a thing. Because of the footage shown in the trailer. And if you're playing solo, you can choose, bring 2 Palicos, bring 2 Palamutes, bring 1 Palamute and 1 Palico. I know that I'm probably going to be bringing the Palamute for most of my hunts because, the advantage of being able to ride him, which I'm assuming will allow you to move slightly faster and with infinite stamina throughout the scenario. But then again, considering that you also have the Wirebug, we need to figure out how essential they are going to be. How important is it going to be for you to move faster if you can just climb up walls all the time and do whatever the hell you want with your Wirebug, and how good is the healing going to be from the Palicos? That's going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. And also, are the Palicos going to be able to bring in like buffs with the choral orchestra that we had in Monster Hunter World? And are those buffs going to be really good to kind of like offset not bring in a Palamute and instead bring in a Palico? And there's also when you're coming up with a team or something, maybe if you're playing with friends and you're all trying to min-max, maybe some will want to bring in their Palico for buffs, maybe others will want to bring in their dog. We'll see how all that stuff pans out, but it does give rise to a lot of combinations of companions stuff, and it looks like companions are going to be a little bit more important than the Palico in Monster Hunter World, because traditionally companions have been more important in games like Generations, Monster Hunter 4. When you're playing solo, particularly, companions are a little bit more important than they were in World, at least in my opinion. Now, a couple of more things that you can tell throughout this trailer is that we don't actually see any mantles being used. Which to me is a good thing. I understand that a lot of people probably got used to using mantles in Monster Hunter World, but the thing about the mantles is that while they're a very useful tool to have and they really help out in hunts and stuff like that, they also change the look of your character when you use them. So like you can spend a whole bunch of time working on a layered set that you really like, and then, you know, for a large chunk of the hunt, you're basically wearing glider mantle because it gives you 2 extra slots, and it, you know, it's just a very good mantle to use. So you're using that mantle, and it's basically not showcasing the cosmetic look of your hunter, which is something that is very important. Speaking of cosmetic, by the way, which we'll touch up on a little bit more at the end of the video, there will be layered armor in this Monster Hunter. It's probably going to be something very similar to what we had in Monster Hunter World. So, you know, if you're wondering, is it going to be like cosmetic, or we're going to be able to do transmog, stuff like that, there will be a layered armor system just like there was in Monster Hunter World. So now let's talk a little bit about the weapons. We see a little bit of a couple of weapons in the trailer. I might miss a couple of them. We see a whole lot of longsword. I wonder why. It's almost like Capcom has a boner for longsword and must make sure that everybody understands. Hey guys, we got longswords. There's longswords here. There's katanas. There's a lot of these weave sticks to go around. It's like everybody and their mother appears to play with a longsword, so I guess they have to appeal to the, you know, most people that do that. But, you know, we also see a little bit of dual blades in there. We see some sword and shield. We see a really weird weapon, which I'm not exactly sure what it is. I suspect it's a gun lance, but it's got a really weird moveset. This weapon has got like a blade, like a scythe. At the same time, it also has a shield, and it seems like it has a barrel. So it looks like a gun lance, but the gun lance, it's a gun lance that's in the form of a scythe. And then the move that he does is very much a melee move. There's not any shelling going on. So I don't know what that weapon is. I'll be honest, I have no idea. Maybe it's a switch axe and it just looks kind of funky, but I don't think it's a switch axe because there's clearly a shield there. But anyway, a really cool thing that we see in that weapon is that instead of just using the wire bug to get, you know, aerial attacks and stuff like that, with that particular weapon, which again, I suspect it's the gun lance, which if it is the gun lance, it means there's a significant shift in what the gun lance is going to be for this game. But what they do with the wire bug there is they actually shoot the silk at the foot of the monster, and then they yank the monster, and then they pull themselves towards the monster at the same time and do kind of like a tripping attack. As a matter of fact, that is not the only weapon that uses the wire bug silk. The SNS also uses the wire bug silk to do like some kind of super AoE attack that's all crazy and stuff. And I was like, dude, that's awesome. And it's cool because if you look at the design of the SNES, the sword and shield that is featured in the trailer, you can actually see that it's got a part that it detaches, and it's just, I love the attention to detail that Capcom always puts on its weapons, despite the fact that we had the bits on sticks and all that. Mechanically, I love the attention to detail that they always put on the weapons of Monster Hunter, and you can definitely see that in that sword and shield attack where he just waves it all over the place. I suspect that pretty much every weapon's going to have their own unique moves with the wire bug. We also see the charge blade kind of yanking itself towards the monster and then starting their like axe rotation going, which is really good. We see the greatsword using it for aerial attacks, like I mentioned earlier. What are the weapons? I didn't notice too much what it does for the insect glaive, but I did notice that the insect glaive still has the spike down attack that we got in Iceborne. So, you know, there's going to be a significant shift in some of these weapons, and some of these weapons are going to get some cool stuff with the wire bug. That's going to be the fun part of getting to play the game eventually. Kegron was actually telling me that there could potentially be a demo during Tokyo Game Show. I'm not sure. It might be too early to get a demo, but maybe not. Maybe during Tokyo Game Show, they do like a limited time demo for us to check out the game and give them feedback. I think that would be really cool. But again, at the same time, I also think that it might be a little bit early for that. We will see how that is going to pan out. Now, I know I didn't talk about all of the weapon types, and some of you guys might be wondering, oh my God, are they going to be removing my favorite weapon from the game? Is that going to be a thing? Because they did do that during the Tri-Era. They removed some of the weapons that had been in previous Monster Hunter games. But since then, there was an interview at some point. I don't remember exactly where this interview was, but I do remember distinctively them saying that they will never remove weapon types again. So if you're worried about, oh, is my favorite weapon not going to be featured? It will be there. It will definitely be there. 99% sure. Okay, I'm not going to say 100% because they might go back on their previous statement, but I highly doubt it. Most likely, all of the weapons are going to be featured in the game. So now let's talk a little bit about the village where this particular Monster Hunter takes place. This is not super important stuff because it's going to be more story related and whatnot. But I figured I would touch up on it just a little bit. This is all information that is available in their website. So what they say is this is in Kamura Village. This is going to be your base of operations where you're going to be doing like all of the blacksmithing, where you're going to be picking up all of your quests and stuff like that. And I assume that they will have like a special hunter hall somewhere whenever you want to do multiplayer. But yeah, they say Kamura Village, after 50 years, the calamity returns. This village, known for its Tatara steel, is where hunters make their living. The rampage, a calamity that ravaged the village 50 years ago, is about to occur again. So the inhabitants are in turmoil. The hero has to become the best hunter there is and overcome this calamity with the help of all the villagers. Now, the developers also said in the mini Nintendo Direct that they did afterwards that when they were talking about this rampage thing, they said, we are looking to provide a new experience with this. So there's more to this rampage than just story implications. I believe that the rampage is going to become like a key feature in the game. Now, what that feature is going to be, I have no idea. You know, the first thing that kind of comes to mind, particularly with that little purple ball that we see in the trailer, is the Gormagala virus. Could there be some kind of like corruption that is spurring the monsters on? Could there be some kind of a curse that is spurring the monsters on? And why do I say curse? Because one of the new locations that they showcase in the trailer is called Shrine Ruins. And when we look at the description on the website, they say once a place where people prayed for protection, this shrine has fallen into decay and is now haunted by the roars of monsters day and night. However, it still maintains its holy nature and exudes a mysterious aura. So could it be that somehow this old shrine, which is the new area that we're getting for this game, this shrine kind of like holds the calamity at bay, but then every now and then this rampage kind of like comes around, this rampage which could be being caused by the flagship monster for this title, which we will get to because they do give us their names and all that stuff. And this is actually a good segue. Let's talk about the monsters that we see in the trailer. So we see an Arzuros in the trailer. We see a Tobi-Kadachi, which is kind of weird because if there's a Tobi-Kadachi, this could mean that this place is in the New World because Tobi-Kadachi was initially found in the New World. Or I don't know how the Tobi-Kadachi went back to the old world. Maybe this is like a separate island somewhere. I don't know, but the fact that Tobi-Kadachi is there, I feel like is a very important thing. And the fact that they show him in the trailer, I feel that lore-wise, that is an important thing and that there is some kind of a connection to the new world in Monster Hunter World. Now, another monster that some people might have overlooked throughout the trailer, and it's one of my personal favorites from the older Monster Hunter games, is Nerscylla. Nerscylla is a spider-like monster. I made a video where I showcased Nerscylla in the channel. You guys might want to check that out. It's an old Generations Ultimate video. But yeah, Nerscylla is an amazing monster. It's got a really interesting moveset, and I can't wait to fight Nerscylla again in a new Monster Hunter game. Nerscylla, definitely one of the coolest monsters they've ever done. So that's a good thing. So now let's touch up on the actual new monsters that they have for the game. Let me just open up the website here. And one of the new monsters is called the Great Izuchi. Great Izuchi, and he's got some kind of a blade on his tail. Now, the Great Izuchi is going to essentially take the place of... I was going to say the Great Jagras. It's not really super accurate because this is going to be more like, if you guys know the previous game, it's going to be more like a Great Macau or a Great Jaggy type of creature. It's kind of like one of the introductory monsters, but it has a very unique thing to it. Now, the description says, this is a bird wyvern whose tail is evolved into a scythe-like shape, which it uses to attack its prey. Great Izuchi tend to roam around their territory in groups with smaller Izuchi. The sharpest two of the pack are always at their leader's side. Once they find their prey, they unleash a flurry of combination attacks. So the two other Izuchis next to the Great Izuchi are always going to be like doing combos with the Great Izuchi, which is an interesting take. It is something that, even though we've seen monsters kind of like hunt in packs and stuff, those monsters actually being part of the mechanic of the main monster is something that you don't really see. Like, sure, sometimes you see one of the big monsters call a bunch of minions to him. Yeah, that is a thing. But they don't necessarily, have like these combination type of attacks. So the fact that they have that with the Great Izuchi is an interesting thing. Then we have the Tetranodon. Tetranodon, I think that's the best way to pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it. And they say an amphibian easily recognizable by its gigantic rotund body. It is extremely gluttonous and swallows everything that moves whole, gravel and all. Once it's done eating, its stomach swells and becomes slower, but its attacks also become heavier and much more destructive. So he's one of your boys that becomes real big. He becomes an absolute unit, kind of like what the Great Jagras did, except the Great Jagras was a pushover when you compared him to something like a Zamtrios or something of that nature. So I'm hoping the Tetranodon is not going to be as much of a pushover as the Great Jagras. Even the Greatest Jagras was a bit of a pushover, so long as you did not underestimate him. And he actually has a really cool turf war with an Arzuros, which I found it was one of the coolest turf wars that I've seen because the animation work is just so good. If you guys take a look at that turf war, you'll notice the Arzuros just like kind of charging in, trying to slash away at him. And then when the Tetranodon notices that he's not agile enough to kind of like beat him up, what he does is like, well, I'm just gonna try to eat you. He grabs the Arzuros. He tries to eat the Arzuros. And I was like, oh my god, is he gonna do it? I was wondering if he's gonna be able to just straight up eat Arzuros. That was gonna be awesome. But no, eventually Arzuros fights his way off and then charges back up. It was a really cool turf war, and I thought that the animation work in there was just completely outstanding. Then again, they might have just picked like the one that they have most polished by now to showcase in the video, but I still thought it looked amazing. So yeah, that turf war was hella cool. Then we also have the Acnosom. The Acnosom is a bird wyvern, and they say when this huge bird wyvern stands on one leg, its peculiar collar gives it the appearance of a monstrous parasol. It is fiercely territorial, and whenever it finds its intruders, it spreads its wings and unfolds the eye-like crest on its head to terrifying effect. It looked interesting. I didn't pay too much attention to its moves. It shoots out fireballs. Kind of feels like this game's version of a cool Yaku, and it is one of the few flyers that we got to see in the game. At least I assume it's a flyer because it's got wings, so theoretically speaking, it should fly. But we'll see just how much that will come into play. And then finally, the flagship monster is called Magnamalo. Now, if you pay attention to this flagship monster, you'll notice that he's got like some kind of a special thing about his tail. I feel like his tail is probably going to stretch out from the footage that we've seen so far. It's going to stretch out and be able to grapple onto other things, kind of like a scorpion spear, scorpion from Mortal Kombat, just like, and then yank them back. You also see a couple of purple markings on its forelegs, which could indicate that he is the creature that is somehow linked to the purple swirly ball that we see, and he may be the one who is causing the calamity. We don't actually know, but as per usual with Monster Hunter games, what tends to happen is you have the flagship monster, and then you have the bigger monster that's behind the flagship monster that is actually the one that's causing all of the issues. But basically they say the main monster in Monster Hunter Rise, Magnamalo, is a fearsome fanged wyvern that hunts its prey with relentless malice, and that's the only thing that they say. But yeah, he's going to definitely be connected to this calamity thing that they keep talking about, right? So those are all of the monsters, at least that I could identify throughout the trailer. There's probably a couple of things that I'm missing, and I know that I'm already late with releasing this video because I had to help out my father with a couple of stuff. But just to wrap things up, a couple of more things. They're going to also be releasing 3 Amiibos. And these Amiibos are going to unlock special layered armor. You guys all know how this works with Nintendo. Sometimes a game is big enough that they want to do some Amiibos with it, and then if you buy the Amiibos, you get some exclusive goodies in the game for it. So they're going to be using it for layered armor. Layered armor does not affect gameplay in any way, so it's not really a big deal. And, you know, personally, I want to get that Magnamalo one at least. Maybe the Palico, and probably the Palamute as well. I want them all. I want all those Amiibos, even if it's just to own them, because I'm stupid like that, but I kind of want them. I really want them. But yeah, you'll be able to unlock specific layered armor with them, which is something that I had told you guys earlier in the video that there was going to be layered armor. And that's not the only layered armor that you can get. If you get like the deluxe version, there's a bunch of layered armor with it, just like we had with the deluxe versions of Monster Hunter World and Monster Hunter World Iceborne. There's also going to be pre-order bonuses, which actually make your Palamute look like a golden retriever, which is kind of weird. and they make your Palico look like a house cat. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, but you know, if you pre-order the game, you're gonna get those if you are interested in that. But that wasn't the only Monster Hunter game that was announced. There was also another Monster Hunter game announced. It was called Monster Hunter Stories 2: Wings of Ruin. And for those of you that don't know about Monster Hunter Stories, think Pokemon, but with Monster Hunter monsters. And it is different from, you know, traditional Pokemon. But I really enjoyed what I've played of the original stories, and I never got around to playing it because, like I told you guys, playing 3DS while I'm at home, that's always been a struggle that I personally have. I always want to play stuff on the big screen, which is why I like the Switch so much, but I'm definitely going to be playing this one. And as an added bonus, they say there's going to be some kind of like a crossover, some kind of compatibility between the two games. So playing both games will probably give you bonuses in the other games. Like if you play Monster Hunter Stories 2, you're probably going to get something that will carry over to Monster Hunter Rise. And if you play Monster Hunter Rise, you're probably going to get something that carries over to Monster Hunter Stories 2. As a matter of fact, me and Kegren were talking about this, and we were even theorizing that one of the things about the story of Monster Hunter Stories 2 is that Rathalos are leaving their natural habitat, and we were wondering if that could be something that is potentially linked to this calamity that is being talked about in Monster Hunter Rise, and that would be something that would be very interesting. But at this point, that's a lot of speculation. All I can really tell you guys is I'm super hyped for it. I told you guys that this was probably what was going to happen. The game's going to be coming out on the 26th of March 2021, and personally, I can't wait for it. And the second that game comes out, that's all I'm playing. That's all I'm playing until I finish everything there is to finish. And keep one thing in mind, which is most likely, maybe a year after that, we're probably going to be getting, because I know that a lot of people got Monster Hunter World, they're not used to how Monster Hunter kind of like works, but probably a year after Monster Hunter Rise, we're probably going to get Monster Hunter Rise Ultimate, which is like the G rank version of the game. You'll be able to carry over your save, and it works very much the same way that it worked for Iceborne, where basically, you know, you get a new rank of monsters to hunt, you get new monsters added into the game, you get all of that jazz. Even though I know I'm getting ahead of myself, that this has been like traditionally how every single Monster Hunter entry has worked. You play the base entry, which is the first game that they put out, and then they put out like an ultimate version, which includes the original game, and it also includes new content that they add with a whole new rank of monsters and a whole lot of other goodies, and I'm just so happy, you know. I was super surprised when I actually got when I was watching the trailer. I was like, holy crap, dude, this is awesome. But yeah, right now the next bit of information that we will get is probably going to be next week during Tokyo Game Show. I will try to live stream that on YouTube, but I believe it is going to be at a really odd hour, so I'm not sure if you guys will be able to attend or not. We shall see how that is going to pan out. Hell, I don't know if I'll be able to do it, because it's going to be at such an inconvenient hour that I might be, you know, waking up to take my kids to school or something like that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I'm also excited about Monster Hunter Stories 2, just because I only make a bit of a brief mention to it. Don't think that I'm not excited about it. I definitely am. But I realize that that's probably not why a majority of you come to my channel. You guys probably come from more of the mainline Monster Hunter stuff. And yeah, that is awesome. And before I finish this video, I'd just like to ask you guys, if you are curious about Final Fantasy 16, which was announced yesterday during the PlayStation 5 showcase. I have a video out right now in my Final Fantasy channel. I created a separate channel just for Final Fantasy stuff, where I put all of my Final Fantasy 14 stuff, and so I figured a new announcement for a new Final Fantasy game, I'd put that there as well. I'll put a link to that in the comment section, the pinned comment of this video, if you guys want to check that out. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy this video, hit the dislike button, because feedback is important. Thank you all very much for watching. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz. See you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.